Hello, and welcome to Change the Face of Yoga, teaching toddlers through golden oldies. I'm very excited to be talking to lots of yoga teachers who will explain their passion for teaching yoga to students with different ages, physical fitness levels, wellness levels, and different goals. They will explain the benefits of yoga for these students and will be including teacher tips and pose modifications. I am Stephanie Cunningham of Yoga Lightness, and I've been teaching over 50s for 10 years. So this area is my passion and the passion of many other yoga teachers that you will be listening to in this series. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get started. This is episode 51 of Changing the Face of Yoga. I'm speaking to Dayna Culwell, who is a very recent yoga therapist. Let's listen. Hello, this is Changing the Face of Yoga, and I have a lovely guest today, Dayna Culwell, and we're going to be talking about several things because Dayna is quite diverse in her offerings, and we're going to talk about mobile yoga and older clients with physical issues and those that are in chronic pain. So welcome, Dayna, to the show. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on.
Yes, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Dayna is a pretty new yoga therapist. She just got her training in last year. But she's doing some really interesting and creative things, I think. She's in Austin, Texas in the USA, and she teaches group classes, some yoga therapy classes for small groups, chair yoga at nursing and assisted living centers, and lots of mobile yoga. And I'm going to ask about that, whether that means she's mobile or she's getting the people mobile. She works with 60 plus years women in their homes, which I think is a wonderful idea. And she's really interested in those with chronic pain and using yoga to help them. Dayna, is there anything you'd like to add to that introduction?
Well, I do think I have an interesting, kind of a unique background and a perspective in that I had 24 years in pharmaceutical sales, and I was always the nerd, loved the anatomy and physiology, and I was always in the area of mental health drugs, particularly with depression, anxiety, bipolar, and schizophrenia. So I have been amazed at how much I've been able to use that experience in my current treatment, especially those one-on-ones in people's homes. And so I can go into that a little bit later, but that has been invaluable.
Oh, interesting. Good. Well, we'll definitely want to talk about that. Now, what I was interested in talking about first, and you just never know where this is going to go, but on your website, you have a quote or a statement that I thought was quite interesting. We change the brain chemistry and therefore interrupt the pain signals, and the topic is chronic pain. So I know, having had shingles, which is a really disgusting disease, I might add, I had some medicine that did that. It just interrupted the pain signals, and I wouldn't get a pain signal, I'd get another kind of signal. But I assume that what you're talking about here is using yoga to do something similar. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So here is how I've understood it from the training, which has been so good. Originally, we get signals that tell us there is pain. It's like an alert. It's like our fire alarm telling us, get out of the house or put the fire out. And that's very useful. That can save our life. So in the body, we might have an extreme pain signal telling us that you've overdone it in your practice. You've now just strained your ankle and you need to lay off. So that's all well and good. But what happens over time when the ankle has been healed? I've given it plenty of time to heal. It looks fine. The doctor says it's fine, but I'm still feeling pain. What's going on? The pain signals have gotten crossed. It's like there is a miscommunication between the brain and the body, and no longer are the pain signals being useful. So that's when we have a problem. And what we have to do is reset the tracks. It's like the train tracks, that the train got off the track slightly, and we need to make that adjustment. And how we do that, we start with our grounding 1, with our breath 2, and using the different layers of our koshas to reconnect to our full spirit and not just focusing on that one limb that is sending us this blaring signal. I have used this very successfully recently. I just had nasal surgery from an old surgery back in high school that was somewhat botched. And it worked pretty well for quite a few years, but over the last 10 years, the entire septum has slid over to one side. It's caused breathing issues. And so here I had this surgery, and it's not pleasant. It's quite painful. And today I had the stitches removed and the cast taken off. And of course, the doctors love it, and the nurses are laughing because I start this heavy breathing. They're like, we're going to remove the sutures. You can hold on to this. You can squeeze, whatever. And I am all into my breath, and I am breathing out, exhale, slow, slow, slow. And they'll ask me something, and I can't even hear what they're saying. I'm so into my breathing out. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I have no pain. So we can redirect those pain signals if we're able to have that intense focus and concentration to recenter us and get that mind, get those little adjustments tweaked to reset the pain pathways and give us the signals that we need, not the ones that are coming in and are useless.
I've heard of that, where the pain signals they just continue even though there's really no particular good reason to have that happen, but you still think that you're in pain, and so it can be very distressful to have that, think you're in pain all the time. Okay, that's great. I had no idea that yoga could do that. So basically what you did was some extended exhalations, and by really focusing on that breath, you took the concentration on the pain away, because you couldn't focus intensely on something else and still feel the pain at the same time. Is that a good way to explain it?
That's pretty good. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Mm-hmm. So this is what you use with your students or your clients. Does it work if it's truly painful? I mean, if there's really truly something wrong.
I know. Absolutely. Okay. Pain is real. When somebody's going, yeah, Dayna, but no, you don't understand. I'm really in pain. No, I do understand. I know the pain is real because the train tracks really are off track. And okay, so fine, there's pain pills, and those are legitimate many times. But sometimes the pain pills we're taking because we think we're supposed to keep taking them, and we forget that our minds can actually be so much more powerful than our physical bodies. So maybe we can't make that pain go completely away, but we can readjust the signals to at least turn it down like a dimmer switch. I'm thinking of this one client, bless her heart. It's so interesting to watch. She had a really bad back, and instead of having a fusion on her spine, they actually injected this particular patented substance to increase the thickness of the disc between each vertebra. And it sounded fantastic, but she had a heck of a time trying to recuperate. Well, one thing, her spine elongated from the surgery. So it worked, but her body was so in the habit of being all crinkled up that her body freaked out. So we had to go through that, and we had to work through those pain signals for a long time and just work with her back and then work with the awareness of posture. But so interesting, when that pain finally went away, all of a sudden she started noticing her second toe was killing her. And she said, yeah, it used to hurt me a long time ago and it all went away. And oh my God, I've got to do something about this toe. And sure enough, we go on, we work with the toe, she gets that fixed, and now it's something else. Now, I know the pain is traveling. She's got a vata imbalance. Absolutely. I know that is a big deal. But her pain is traveling as the signals get repaired on one, and then it goes to another, and then it goes to another. And we keep talking about it, and it's like, girl, you have got to recenter, refocus, not chase the pain from one limb to another, but go back to your breath, go back to your spirit, start there, reground, and don't put yourself as a limb connected to another limb. You are a whole being.
Okay, when you say reground, what do you mean by that?
By reground, we tend to lose perspective. When pain gets the best of us, yeah.
Yeah.
We it's like the pain is now controlling us more than we have power to control it. An example here I think that God puts us in this field because we're meant to be here, because we've already gone through so many of these things personally somehow. I watched my husband have pancreatic cancer and pass away in 2007. I think that's one of the worst pains, from what I've heard, is that you can have. And I watched as this pain, I watched his hair turn gray from the pain. I watched him go from happy-go-lucky to serious to downright mean and a little bit scary and a little bit threatening. So pain can have these kinds of additional side effects, if you will. There's the pain, but the pain is a physical sensation. All of a sudden, an emotional pain gets added on to the physical. So we start giving an additional characteristic to the pain that maybe it wouldn't be there if we were able to reground. And by regrounding, we do this in every single yoga class. What do? We start out in something like child's pose with our palms pressing into the earth, our third eye pressing into the earth. Our whole body is touching the universe. And we are receiving that grounding energy back that's saying, you're okay. You're okay. You're not going anywhere. You have a right to be here now. All of those voices and all of those signals that are having us freak out can get a little bit more quiet. So it's the mind over matter. Sounds like cliche, but it really can be true and has been proven to be true.
Oh, that I understand. That's a really good piece of information for all of us to know. I agree. I kind of go crazy when I'm in constant pain. So I'm cranky, I'm irritable, I snap, and I don't even realize I'm doing it until somebody points it out. And so I totally understand how, as you said, the emotional pain comes in addition to the physical pain. And
the emotional pain of the fear. We're attaching a fear. And I've heard this so many times of, well, but Dayna, this pain I'm having now with my back, they're telling me I can't go do my jogging anymore. If I can't run anymore, how am I going to get rid of that adrenaline, that nervous anxiety? And I'm going to get fat and I'm going to not be able to do all these things and I'm going to get old. So there's more of that emotional pain come in, or I can't work and I'm going to lose my job and then I don't have enough money, and on and on and on. The emotional roller coaster starts and the pain begins to snowball. It takes on an added dimension.
Becomes your whole life, doesn't it?
It does.
Everything. It affects everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You said that you were really interested in starting a chronic pain program, I think, in a hospital. And so this is one of your goals. What does that look like to you?
Okay. So Robin Gunthe, she's been one of my professors in my yoga therapy program. She's out of just north of San Francisco, and she has started a program. And so we got to hear a lot about it. What sparked my attention is that the program started by she introducing this whole concept to the physicians at the hospital first. She put the whole program on for them so that they could experience that intense ability to go from high-wired, completely focused, which they have to be as surgeons, as physicians, to completely turning off that switch and relaxing. They were able to see the benefits on their own selves, including dropping their own blood pressure and other things like that, that encouraged them to get this thing implemented for their clients. And what they found is that these patients who are recovering from such as cancer, or have had a bypass or stent put in, or some kind of major procedure in their life, the recuperation is so paramount. And what do? We we have surgery. The doctor does the surgery, and then the patient's whisked away. They have a little bit of physical therapy, and okay, you're good to go. Bye. Well, the emotional component is still there. The breast cancer survivor goes home well and is missing a breast. And so that emotional component hasn't been dealt with. We can deal with the emotional component as yoga therapists to create that empowerment. And there again, we teach that new yogi that if they can find the strength through their yoga practice, they can continue the healing without someone having to do it for them. They can do it for themselves. We teach them how to do that.
And that gives them a sense of power, because I'm sure having to go through those kinds of procedures, you feel like you've lost all of your personal power, because, you're being told what to do and where to go and how it's going to happen. And it must be very frightening.
And your
really.
identity changes. You are now the woman missing a breast, or you are now the man that can't eat all that junk food and go hang out and watch football with his buddies. And so the roles have to change. The whole lifestyle changes, which just changes maybe their relationship with their friends or their family or their coworkers. Every component changes. One of the things I want to remind my clients of, and I think this is powerful for us too as yoga therapists, is that the difference between us and perhaps physical therapists are awesome, and they go in and manipulate the body in many ways. And so sometimes my new clients will come in and, okay, Dayna, so what are you going to do to me? And I'm like, no. Your physical therapist will do things to you. I don't do things to you. I teach you to do them to yourself. That's the difference.
That's a good quote. I like that one. Yeah, I teach you to do them to yourself. Yes. I think that's really interesting. I haven't had anybody who's really talked in such depth about chronic pain and how yoga can help. So you start off with the grounding into the child pose and connecting with the ground, and then you deep breathing. Is there anything else that you routinely bring into a session to work with chronic pain?
I do. I really honestly depend on the kosha model. So we start with the physical body, the Annamaya body, because going structurally is much less intrusive than having a one-on-one and like, tell me about your whole life. So that general movement, the first couple of sessions is pretty good. And of course, then we teach them how to breathe. How many of these clients can't breathe? You tell them to stick out their belly for a big belly breath, and you watch her and their belly goes in. I've had so many clients tell me, well, I've always been told to hold my stomach in. It's like, well, if you hold it in chronically, well, that's just going to create a whole nother can of worms. So, you got to breathe. So we teach them how to breathe. Then we go into the Manomaya kosha, the mind, the more the intellectual level. So we're getting deeper here. And this is where I think we have to go into these levels of energy of who are you? What is your role? As we talk about in the Bhagavad Gita, what is your role when you are no longer with that part of your body that you're used to, or when you're no longer able to work, or you're no longer able to drink because you have an addiction, you need to get out of that lifestyle. So that's when we start going into the mind layer. And what do? We take a 4-page assessment with that client. We find out not just what happened to cause this back issue. We want to know about their childhood, about emotional parts of their life that have probably somehow led to this physical issue. Whether it was a really bad divorce or a crisis in their upbringing or whatever. God, there are so many different things that could have happened to this client. And so that's when we find out. So when you were at your worst and you were really, really hurting, what else was going on in your life at that time? And we start digging. And this is what physicians don't have the time or luxury to do, but we do. So we start tying in the emotional component to the physical component. And then we get the patient to start thinking and looking at all of this from a different perspective. So whatever has happened is real, and it's just as real. We've just changed the framing of it. We're teaching them to frame to find a different perspective for what has happened and what is happening and how it will be happening in the future. Psychology
Excellent.
101.
And I think that's important. That is the beauty of yoga, is that it does look at all of the parts of the being, shall we say, the breathing, the mental, the physical. And so it makes perfect sense that you also have to address all of those areas with pain too, because pain's pretty overwhelming, at least in my experience. Thank you so much for that. The other thing I really found fascinating, I work with seniors also, but I love how you go into their homes and meet 60 plus women and teach them how to practice yoga safely in order to reach their goals. And I think that's really important, that it's their goals that you're working toward, not some set of goals. So how did you get started in that?
All right. So I guess it started with patients coming to my house. I have a personal studio and I love that. But there are some women who don't have the luxury of much free time, or they're insecure. They don't really want to be seen out in public. They feel much more secure in their own home. And what I do like about going to their home is together we create that sacred yoga space for them. Because if they come to my house and I give them all these exercises, draw them up a nice little routine, and they don't have a place to practice, it's not going to happen. And when I'm there with them, I'm asking them, so where do you intend to practice? Okay, well, let's go look at that space. So show me how you plan to do this. And where is your mat? Where are your blocks? What else do you need to make this practice comfortable? Do you have a good wall space where you can do your wall planks? So now you're letting them help to configure their practice in their own personal space. The other thing is awesome is they never can have the excuse, well, I couldn't get there on time because traffic was bad or whatever. Yeah. It's like, no, they're already in their house and I can get there on time because I'm going to get paid. So I'm going to be there. So compliance is so much better. So I have had beautiful success there. And what I do is I try to put them in a slot where I'm already in that direction. So I make it very efficient in my schedule. And now I'm actually seeing privates in the nursing homes where, yes, I have an 87-year-old with severe kyphosis and mild dementia that's getting worse and irritable bowel syndrome. That is a really bad combination because when she has to go, she has about 30 seconds before she's got to go. So we practice in her room very close to her private bathroom. And many times those caregivers can't even get there fast enough. And I end up doing everything because she trusts me and I want to give her dignity. So we work together and she sometimes in a regular chair, sometimes she has to be in a wheelchair. But we can use her walker, so we can practice going from her wheelchair to her walker, even how to get up and stand up and put her back against a wall and feel the wall take her back and support it. Feel that lengthening. It's okay and not be afraid of it. So that can be invaluable. And she can't do her group classes. She's too far gone in these other capacities, but we can do one-on-one.
I had a student who had Alzheimer's, and she was a lovely person. I was very fond of her, but I did notice how it affected her ability to do yoga. And it said that you work with people who have dementia. And how have you, shall we say, modified either your instructions or your guidance to help them? Because they, at least in my experience, she did become confused quite easily.
Yes, absolutely. And I do teach a group class for all patients with, I guess they have mild to moderate dementia. So granted, some of them are just going to sit there and stare at me. And at first I was really upset by it. And then I realized, okay, that's all that they're able to do. And that's okay because they're still getting some kind of stimulation. With that, okay, first it's the music. I put on music and I want to relax them. So I start out with something very mellow and I'm just softly kind of talking to them, and I'm having very kind expressions, and they soften as they're watching my expressions soften. Then I learned they're on medications that usually makes them pretty drowsy. So can't keep the soft music on too long. They'll fall asleep. So I started finding soul music, or it's sort of a jazz soul kind of beat. And that has actually worked pretty well. So now it's a little bit more upbeat, but it's still got that great feeling, moving kind of rhythm. We always are in a chair. They're safe because they're in the chair and they're very close to me. If they can't hear me, they can see me. Many people don't know what I'm saying, but it's monkey see, monkey do. So they may not have an idea of what I'm talking about. And everyone's at a different level. I realize that too. So those who can understand me, fine. The others, they're just going to do what I do. Sometimes they'll stop and I will have to go over there and hold their hands and lift their arms with them, look them in the eye. And I'll over exaggerate with my breath and they'll copy me. So it's almost they're parodying me. But I think that's okay because they're still using their muscles and they're still using their breath and they're still getting this social stimulation, still keeping them strong. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, you'll see that maybe they started out really sleepy and barely moving. Some will just kind of keep nodding off, and then I'll get something that stimulates them, and then they're on, and they're with me for the rest of the class. You'll see others just looking really scared and nervous and agitated, and by the end of the class, they start relaxing, and I see more smiles. So really, I guess you go with the flow. You kind of let them, you're following their lead. Where do we need to go? And every class is different. Some classes feel great and others I feel like maybe that was a complete failure. But I feel like if we touched one person that day, then it was successful. So yeah, I'm seeing some good stuff. I actually wrote one of my senior projects was on that class with dementia. And at first I thought, oh, this is going nowhere. And yet by the end of a 6-week program, we started growing the numbers again. And it's been 1 year and I am still teaching them once a week. So, yay.
Okay, great. How is it accepted by the place where they are, the assisted living or whatever, the nursing homes?
They love it. Those caregivers that are paid so very little, bless their hearts, it gives them 1 hour break. They finally don't have to do something constantly for these clients. Many times the caregivers will sit right beside the patients and take the class with them, and the caregivers are getting just huge benefits. They're like, oh my God, I didn't know I was so tight. Or, wow, Dayna, this is hard. We're working.
Shared classes can be intense sometimes. Lots of people think you don't do anything, but you do.
Absolutely. And so getting them moved, if nothing else, if we can move side to side, do the little twisting, we're bathing their disc with these much needed synovial fluid. Because all of these discs are getting desiccated because they're just sitting all day. And the poor caregivers are having to hoist these people up, lift them, and killing their own backs. So it is a win-win for clients and for the caregivers as well.
Dayna, this has been great. You've really talked about some interesting subjects that I haven't ever heard of. Well, I haven't gone into this much detail before. Is there anything that you would like to add before I tell our listeners how they can contact you or look at your website and see what you've been doing?
My final word that I'd love for people to contact me with, I have a passion like you wouldn't believe for the treatment of scoliosis. Why? Selfish reasons. I have moderate scoliosis, double S, the S curve, plus reversed cervical curve in my neck, of course. And I used to receive injections in my spine for pain. When I was doing sales, it was just so bad for so many years. Yoga fixed it. It honestly has helped me so immensely. So I am doing so much research on scoliosis, both from viewpoints of a physical therapist, of a chiropractor. I'm learning and learning and learning and helping people that have not been able to get help. So I would love for people that are into that to contact me and brainstorm together. I think there is a huge unmet need that we can fulfill.
Great. Wonderful. So if this is an interest of yours or Dayna's other interest, you can contact her by email, yoga by Dayna, and that's Dayna, Dayna, at gmail.com. Her website is www.yogawithdayna.net, and her Facebook is Yoga with Dayna. I want to thank you, Dayna. It's really, you really go into some areas with great depth. I appreciate that. I think you've explained chronic pain and how yoga can help that area really, really well. And I'm really interested in taking the yoga into people's homes and into the nursing homes now for one-on-ones. I think that a really great service. Although I teach seniors, the only ones I can really help are those that are mobile and can come to my studio. So I appreciate you bringing yoga to another population that probably wouldn't be able to access it any other way. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's just an honor. And I just, anyone listening out there, as a yoga therapist, it's such an honor what we get to do and the what we learn from our clients. But power to you for seeking this field, because it is hard. it's exhausting. But my goodness, what an honor we all get to serve. So I just urge everyone to give themselves a little pat on the back. And thank you for asking me to participate. This has also been just such a pleasure.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Okay, thank you so much. So everybody, the listeners, why don't you contact Dayna if you have the interest in any of her areas, especially the scoliosis. It sounds like you could get some really great collaborations going.
Bye now.
Bye-bye, Dayna. Thank you for that wonderful interview. If you would like to be a guest on Changing the Face of Yoga, please go to my website, www.yogalightness.com.au, and under the Changing the Face of Yoga tab, you can complete Be Our Guest form. After reviewing the form and finding it applicable to this podcast, we will send you a link to schedule an interview. Please download, review, and tell your friends of any podcasts that are of interest to you and to them. If you would like to contact me, send an email to info@yogalightness.com.au. And thank you for listening to Changing the Face of Yoga.